Hi everyone, welcome to the live stream of AgentHack, and I'm very excited to be joined by the CEO of Portia, Munir, and we are very excited to kick this live stream off. Past a few months, actually more than a year now, when I've been speaking to people in the industry, sovereignty is like at its peak right now. I work at Sibo, as you all know. I speak to a lot of people for their cloud needs and whatnot. And sovereignty is like a really hot topic, be that in India, Europe, even UK, US as well with the new government and stuff. So things are going quite interesting. And, this is an AI hackathon. So how to use AI safely, and especially like in regulated industries as well. Portia helps us to do that. And what is this live stream about? We are going to cover about the hackathon. So if you've already registered, welcome. If you have not registered, you should. The links can be found in the description below. And this is a live stream, so it's not like recorded. We are live right now, so we are happy to answer your questions as well. We'll be sharing some rules and just nitty-gritty things. So let's get started. Let me just share my screen real quickly and walk you through. This session also has like a demo about how to use Portia, which is an open source project, by the way. So we'll share how you can contribute as well. So let's go to the website, WeMakeDevs.org. This is the banner, but you can find it in the hackathon section as well, AgentHack. Here you can find the rules. I won't bore you with this. You can just read that. Resources, which is quite important. This is the video that we are doing right now. And here you can find a bunch of links and tutorials and docs and APIs and project ideas and other video tutorials and everything, right? So people ask, hey, Kunal, I'm new to Portia. Where do I get started? Here you go. There are the resources. After that, this is the schedule. Hackathon goes live Wednesday, so you can hack throughout the week. And Hackathon ends IST evening on Sunday. And on Monday, we will announce the winners. And this is the main page. We are very excited because the prizes are quite cool. The winner will get an Apple MacBook Pro. The first runner-up will get an iPhone 16, which is like the latest iPhone, and an iPad as well for the second runner-up. Since I mentioned Portia is open sourced, show some love and start them on GitHub. We will select 10 random people you just share using the hashtag AgentHack2025 on social media, and 10 people will get some nice swag as well. So highly recommend checking that out as well and starting it on GitHub. Apart from that, there are some issues that are over here. Like you can see, good first issues up for grabs. So you can contribute to these as well. Munir, it says 40 quid. So is it like if someone does this, they get 40 quid?
Yeah, that's right.
Cool. That is interesting. So if you submit, if you make a PR, or if you get PR gets merged and the issue gets closed, you will get 40 pounds, 100 pounds and whatnot. But obviously don't spam, because spamming won't get you any money, only if your PR is relevant and if it gets merged. Also, the website, you can find portialabs.ai. Here you go. And here they have their own Discord channel as well. So you can join that as well. And that's what hackathons are all about. Like when we have done it in the past, like with Kestra and other companies, people have joined their communities and started contributing. So hackathon is a good way to get up and running really, really fast. But then if you want to get more deeper into the ecosystem, you can connect with Munir and go check out the GitHub repository and their Discord channel. And last thing I want to mention is, if you haven't registered already, just as I mentioned, go to the main page, register. Every person in the team has to register. You can take part by yourself as well. But if you're taking part as a team, make sure every member registers. That's very simple. And we will send you email reminders and everything about, what do you call it? When to submit, where to submit, the link to submit. And lastly, the Discord channel. So join the WeMakeDevs Discord server that you can also find in the resources section here, the Discord server. So join the Discord server. There is a whole category for AgentHack. You can introduce yourself there, find teammates, ask your questions, technical doubts and everything. This is the most important bit. Join the Discord server, because that's where all the communications will be happening. So yeah, register, join the Discord server, start it on GitHub, have fun, and meet new people and just create cool things. Now I'm going to give it over to Munir, who's going to walk us through Portia, what Portia is, and how we can get started. Someone's asking, what is the problem statement? That's the thing. It's an open-ended hackathon. Do whatever you like. You can build anything, but you have to use Portia. And now Munir will share what the tool is all about and show us some examples. Over to you, Munir.
Great. Thanks for the intro, Kunal. Let me know if it starts to get a bit choppy or not. I think we're fine, but just let me know in case. And I'll try and answer the question that somebody just raised now. So we are an open source SDK for multi-agent workflows, and we're very focused on helping solve the sort of gnarliest use cases in particular. So we have a lot of focus on helping you exert as much or as little control as you want on a sort of multi-agent run. And so what that means is if you wanted to go for something like a sort of prompt and pray approach, where you have a few tools and you say, create a refund for this person if you think you should, here's the policy, you would sort of bet on the agents to decide in what sequence to review a policy, to check the payment intents, to go and get the refund, or to go and get the transaction that needs a refund. So it really has to like figure out how to string these things together. And you might still end up with cases, especially when it comes to money movement, where it'll do something like refund someone before it's checked the refund policy, and then it says, well, now let me check the refund policy to sort of make sure in hindsight that I did the right thing. That's exactly what we're trying to avoid. So customers that we work with, they do things like decisions on anti-money laundering, on adverse media exposure, on political exposure, etc. for their customers. That's what their platform does, as an example. And so you obviously can't afford to get it wrong, right? So there are very strict guidelines that they need to follow. And so being able to process those in a reliable way, being able to add deterministic code that can sort of pause what the agent is doing in a stateful manner and ask a human for feedback. And frankly, just the ability as an agent or multiple agents are working through a workflow to enrich a plan run state, like a live audit log of what they're doing, is hugely important from like an explainability perspective, which, I mean, Kunal touched on some of the things coming out of regulation, etc. I feel like for some sectors, this is already an imperative, even if it's not yet called out as much in regulation. So this is really like the space that we've been focusing on trying to address with the open source SDK. There's also a cloud component, which we'll try and cover briefly. The idea of the cloud component is to just help you make the development process easier and faster. So I mentioned that when you sort of spin up a Portia instance with multiple agents, you enrich a plan run state. If you wanted to save that on your own disk or Postgres, you can. But if you have a Portia API key, your plan runs appear immediately in our dashboard, which makes it very easy when you're developing agents to figure out right from wrong. We also have 1,000+ tools, a lot of the sort of known MCP servers whenever it's published by the actual app owner. We actually allow you to connect those. We're going to look at this Stripe one in just a second. So that's pretty cool. And you can extend it with as many MCP servers as you want. Last but not least, and then I promise to stop trying to sell at you, that's not the objective. We just launched last week is like an evaluation and observability framework. And there, what we focus squarely on is like, damn, every time you're trying to do like evals on like a multi-agent run, you build your agents and then you have to like painstakingly create data sets manually. What does the ground truth look like? And that takes ages. Instead, in the Portia dashboard, you can hit add the data set, and that immediately adds a plan run to your data set, and you could start running evals on it as a source of truth. You can augment it with your own evaluators or with some of our pre-baked, both deterministic and LLM as judge evaluators. Or you can opt for real-time visibility, or every time a plan runs, you can sample at a certain rate and say for the sampled plan runs, check the following things at every step or across the whole plan run, which makes it very powerful to detect regressions because of model drift. I'm actually going to show you a live example that happened this morning. That made me panic a little bit because I was making sure that everything was running fine for today, and it wasn't. But I'll show you why, because it was relatively easy to catch. So, Kunal, am I okay to share my screen at this stage?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let me do this. Share screen, entire screen. Voila. Can everybody see this dashboard?
Yep, it's visible.
Sweet. So this is the Portia dashboard. I'm in the plan runs tab at the moment. This is where every time I run a plan, it will appear, and we'll talk about that in a bit more detail in a second. The other tab that I have open is a Stripe sandbox, because the example that I want to walk you through to get all the abstractions, bring them to life, is a refund, an agent refund using Stripe's MCP server. So I created a fake transaction of £10 with this email address. And now I'm going to head over to the IDE, and I'm going to trigger a multi-agent refund process. So if I go over here, before I trigger it, I'll just give you a very high-level overview of the code, because that's why you're here. I'm assuming the font is fine, yeah, but like, please do ping if you guys don't think and girls don't think the font is clear enough. So what I'm doing is I'm using the config to just create it. I'm using the default config, but in here you can specify the LLM of choice that you want. We can connect to anything that you can wire through Olama. So that's like pretty straightforward stuff. We actually have an open source contribution to connect via Open Router as well, which I'm super excited to try out. You can also point to the log sync that you want, to the storage class that you want, if you wanted to store stuff in your own Postgres or locally, etc. The other thing I'm doing for my Portia instance ahead of time is I'm preparing the list of tools that I would like it to use, right? So we have a default tool registry, which has a bunch of our open source tools, as well as some tools that we have in the cloud for you to use. And we're going to jump over to see them in 1 second. Now with Portia, you can sort of cobble together tools from a bunch of different sources: MCP, our cloud tools, your own MCP server, or you could just write inline tools sort of Pythonically. And so here, just further up in this code, I have a tool that uses an LLM. It gives it a refund policy, a refund email, and says, should we approve or not approve this? Come back to me with a approved or rejected determination. And we're using structured outputs to make sure that it returns within this LOV specifically. Now, the one thing that I've done is that in the Portia dashboard, I wanted to make sure my default tool registry from Portia includes Stripe. And so in our tool registry tab, we have a bunch of anyone who basically has a remote MCP server that is an official implementation. On a weekly basis, we test them, and the ones that we find are sufficiently reliable, because a lot of them are still a mess, we will make them available from here from default. So all you would need to do in any one of those is you'd essentially like click through. Let's say you're enabling this one. I'll take one that is not OAuth. Say you're doing post-hog, you'd go enable, enter your API key, and then it becomes immediately available along with all of its tools to connect via the default tool registry. And so this is the Stripe one that I've configured with my API key, and now all of the tools that come from the remote MCP server of Stripe are available here. So you can see them here. For example, this is the one of the ones we're going to use. Now, bear in mind, you could also add your own remote MCP servers. We have customers who expose APIs internally behind their own firewalls by registering their own MCP servers. So this is like obviously fully extensible. And so with that, this means that the Stripe tools will be loaded as part of this registry. But the other thing that I'm doing is, and this is the thing I ran into this morning, is that, well, shit, Stripe actually made a change to their remote MCP server. I think it was over the weekend, because I kind of run this thing all the time. And they added this field called refund reason to their refund API, which means that if you're trying to create a refund, you have to provide an enum, which has to be one of those 3 strings in order for the API request to be accepted. And so when I ran it and got an error, I immediately realized that that was the case. what I could do here is like personalize the tools that are loaded from Stripe, and you could do that for any other tool, to my own implementation. So I've done two things. First, I said to it, hey, look, beware this new field. It's a bit tricky. You can use one of those enums and make sure you don't miss that. The other thing I've done, for any one of you who's worked with Stripe before, I used to work at Stripe, so I painfully know this. They like to do stuff at two decimal points. And so like they do it in cents and pennies. And so I wanted to make sure that the LLM is aware of that, because otherwise it might end up giving somebody a refund of £1,000. So in this way, basically, as you bring external tools and you worry about things like tool clashes, and you want to give some extra guidance on how to string tools together, whatever else you want to do, you can override these third-party tools and really make them your own. And so finally here, I've given it the config, I've given it the tools. The last thing I've added is what we call an execution hook. A hook is you basically saying that under various conditions, there's quite a few of those conditions, under various conditions, I would like you to stop and execute a particular callable. And so this happens in a deterministic fashion. So here I'm saying before a tool call, if that tool call is the create refund tool from Stripe, I'd like you to use this callable, which is the clarify on tool calls callable. And in this callable, we're going to raise a user verification clarification. And so now is a good time to explain. Clarifications is basically our user-facing abstraction that you can then use as a developer whenever you want to pause and ask a human for their input to something. And so essentially here, this clarification is raised and control of the plan run is passed to you as a developer. So you can take this clarification, it's a JSON object, or you can surface it in any UX that you want to get the person's response, which then allows us to ingest it and continue with the plan run. The final two things is you could just be cavalier and go Portia.run and just give it a query and it'll do its thing. What we want to do here is show you that we do have an explicit separation of concern between planning and execution under the hood. And so if you wanted to, you could first invoke the planning agent. And it'll basically, what we're saying here is read the refund request and determine if it should be approved or not, and then send instructions or send a confirmation to this person, a polite email saying that the refund has happened. And so then we're going to go ahead and run it. So this is sort of it in a nutshell. So I've just kicked it off for this customer, which I'd shown you in the Stripe dashboard in a second. And so the first thing that's going to happen, because we've used the planning agent, is, let me pull this up a little bit, is that you will see the planning agent here. You will see it running for this query in particular, and it's going to generate a multi-step plan for me. And I'll hop over to the dashboard to show you the plan and to then sort of start going through the multi-step plan run that it's going to create and execute. Kunal, I'm not seeing if there are questions just because I'm like looking at the other screen.
Yeah, I have some compiled data. It's also being live streamed on LinkedIn and X actually, and those comments don't show up here.
Okay.
So
okay.
I'll send some questions out.
Okay, great. So a couple of things. The first one is the first thing that happened is the planning agent went and created, it's now 4:21 in the UK, it's created this plan. You'll notice there's a like button. The point of like buttons is to say that if you find a high semantic similarity between a future query and this one, use this current plan in your as multi-shot prompting to like anchor your planning. So this is what the definition of good looks like for us today for this type of query. If you go into the plan run itself, you will see the underlying plan that was created, which is, this is just a visual representation because you squint less than looking at JSON. But under the hood, it is a sort of our own plan domain language, if you will, where you have a task inputs, tools and outputs, and a condition at every step. And so once the planning agent has created this plan, the execution agents are cycling through it. And so the first thing it's done is it's loaded the email. The second thing is it's loaded the refund policy, which you can go through here. And it basically says, we normally would refund somebody if their product is seen to be defective within 30 days. For context, the actual request is from Marty McFly, who's complaining that his hoverboard was defective within 3 days. And so once the LLM has taken a look at it and said, well, look, this is fair play. The product was defective. It's within the policy, so I approve this. Our planner has figured out that it needs to go and fetch the payment intent, fetch the customers to pick the right one out, fetch the payment intents for this customer to get the latest one that is related to this payment, and then create a refund. Now, you'll notice that the plan has moved from being in progress to needs clarification. So what's basically happened is, if you remember the execution hook we had before the tool call that is create refund, we said we want you to raise a clarification, a user verification clarification. And that's what's happened here. And so you'll see that an object, basically the plan run is serialized and saved. It's now on the cloud, or it could be, again, wherever you want it to be. And you can now take this JSON object that is the clarification, under the hood, and you can surface that object anywhere you want. It could be Slack, it could be email, it could be a dashboard. And when you get the response from your user, you ingest that back into your Portia plan run, and our agents will take back control. And so right now, for this demo, I'm surfacing all of my execution hooks via the CLI. So I'm just going to go ahead and say yes. And you will see that in a second, there you go, the user verification was updated to resolved. So in the background, the input from the terminal was passed back to the Portia client, and so it was able to resume. And so the plan's gone back to in progress. And so the agent is now able to take a second stab at this step and at calling the create refund API. And if we give this a second and the demo gods are favorable, which I am bullish they will be, there you go, the customer refund is created. Now, my last step is to ask it to also send an email, which you will see sent in 1 second. There you go, the email was sent. Now, the summarizer agents then takes what the execution agent has done and just basically gives you a summary of the plan run. Tomorrow, we're going to release a sort of lighter version of the Portia client, the purpose of which is if you have workflows that are 2-3 steps, and normally what you do is several chat completions in a row with a bunch of Python to turn stuff into the class you want or whatever, we'll just give you a way to build a 2-3 step plan in a deterministic way, and it'll run in like a very light LLM utilization mode. By contrast, this type of workflow that you have here includes a lot of validators that check the quality of the tool calls and whether they need to be retried, summarizers that make sure to summarize the output of the tool calls to be relevant to the task, as opposed to just sort of snapping to a structured output, etc. So look out for that. It'll drop tomorrow, and we're super excited for you to give it a try. Now, just to make sure that there is no doubt that this is not vaporware or snake oil, I'm going to refresh my Stripe dashboard, and you will see that this payment has moved from succeeded to refunded, and this was the payment that we had asked to refund. There you go. It's all done here. This is a bug in the Stripe sandbox, by the way. It doesn't have the right time zone set up. It should say 4:24. Anyways, so this is sort of it in a nutshell. I'll do just one last thing, which is because I talked about it earlier. Evaluations is where you basically can ingest test cases. You do that through here, and you can pick any test case that you want. So for example, I could just take the last plan run that we looked at now, right? And I can just select that. And that now becomes my input output ground truth that I can run evals against, right? And so by default, it gives me all of the tools just because that's what the plan run was set up like. But you can whittle that down if you wanted to. And here you get to configure all sorts of evaluators. You could do an LLM as a judge. Make sure the LLM was not mean. You could add whatever. Oops, sorry. You could add whatever else you want to it. I did not mean to open Merlin. New. Voilà. I don't know if you've tried Merlin. It's pretty cool, by the way. So yeah, and then you can add your test case description here, and you have plenty more evaluators you can add. As I mentioned, you can look at your final plan run state. You can hone in on a specific step, and the fact that our plan runs are structured, multi-step, and explicit means that you can really target evals to a very specific part of a plan run. So I'll pause here. This is the sort of how slow was I, Kunal? I tried to be as quick as I could. Hopefully, this was a decent whistle-stop tour for folks.
Yeah, no, we have a lot of questions for folks who have just joined in. It's pretty simple. You may have heard of MCP, in the news recently. This is for beginners who are recently joining in, and if you have just joined, this is also being recorded, so you can watch it later on. So Portia has a Python toolkit, and you can build like smart AI assistants with it, like things that can actually do some work. So let's say you connect like your Google Calendar with like your Slack or something else, and it also adds a safety break with it. So if you talk about this assistant, it's going to make a plan for you, like a step-by-step plan. It's going to ask you, is this cool? Like, so there's a human in the loop, and you can give the approval. And then all those steps and everything, it's going to execute that for you. So like we just saw, like the refund bot, for example, for Stripe. So you can, so it can like propose a refund for you and do a bunch of other stuff. So there are like a lot of, this is super hackathon friendly because it's very easy to get started with. Just pip install and you can run a tiny example as well. We have a lot of questions, so let me just go through those. Let's see. Let me just filter through these. I'm only getting YouTube ones here, but we had some on the other platforms as well. So
I just want to say you folks are amazing. I love the comment. Like there's tons of questions, tons of ideas. This is amazing. I've been in hackathons and like presentations where you just can't get anything from folks. So I love this.
So
thank you.
Can solo players take part? Yes, you can take part solo as well. I think up to 4 members. Cool. Do we have to deploy the final project in order to submit? No, but if you go above and beyond and deploy it, that's obviously extra points. So you can do that. Do we get credit for the platform, or is it a free trial we have to pay? It's an open source project, so you can use the open source version as well. What about the cloud?
You get 100 plan runs with the cloud, and if you're a registered member of the hackathon for the duration of the hackathon, we won't charge you. You just need to bear one thing in mind, which is if you run. Let me just quickly show this. Sorry to interrupt you, Kunal. But like if you run into the quota with the free plan, you go into settings in the dashboard, usage and billing, and move over to Pro here, and that's all you need to do for now. And if you did that as part of the hackathon, then we will not include the duration of the hackathon in your bill.
Cool. What are some of the things we should already know about AI for this hackathon, and what are the things we will need to learn? Munir?
Things you should know about AI, I suppose, is some familiarity with the concept of agents and LLMs, some familiarity with potentially the types of issues you might run into, like how you would tweak a prompt slightly to get you through things if you're building custom tools yourselves, how to tweak your tool description so that it's firing when you want it to fire and with the right arguments. Those are like little things that are more art than science, unfortunately, with LLMs because it's stochastic. Other than that, like you don't really need anything else. The rest is in our docs, and we've designned the SDK so that you don't have to be like an AI engineering guru to be able to use it. And as you'll probably gather yourselves. Sorry, if you don't mind, Kunal, I do want to say, like, if you play with the SDK, like I can't tell you how helpful it will be for us to hear from you on Discord, whether it's a good or a bad experience. Like, tell us what we can do better. Tell us how we can be better. Whatever it is that you've run into, like just please don't hold back. Like we know our, what's that Amazon expression? Our sweat does not taste of perfume, does not smell of perfume. So like if you have feedback, we're all in to hear about it. And thank you again.
Cool. Amit is asking, do we deploy our Portia agents on custom infrastructure or have to run it on Portia servers? Again, up to you. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say up to you, Kunal. Tell me if you disagree, but I imagine we would want to be able to run their code just to make sure it all makes sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So in the submission form, you will be asked to submit your code as well. It's okay if it's not deployed, but again, if you can deploy it, that's just extra marks. Can we combine multiple APIs with Portia in a single agent plan? For example, Gmail plus Notion plus Slack in one flow.
Absolutely. I mean, the plan run that you just saw has Gmail because it sends an email at the end with a customer refund. It has a file reader tool because it's pulling a local file, and it has 3 different Stripe tools that it's calling. If you look at our examples repository, you will find that we actually have all sorts of multi-agent runs with multiple APIs. One of them, if you join our Discord, there's an AI news channel. The news that you get daily on that with the 10-minute podcast is actually built on Portia. And so it calls Podcastify to make the podcast, but first it calls Gmail to get newsletters from a bunch of places that we receive in an inbox, and then it just uses an LLM call without tools to format the headlines and check the links, etc. So there's plenty more like that. I don't know if people can see what I post, but I'll put it in the private chat bit if you can share it, Kunal, with folks. The agent examples repository, because it's a good place to start as well for folks.
I think that was added in the on the website as well. So under the resources, Portia docs examples. Yeah, I have it in on the website as well. I'll make sure I add this in the resources. Cool. Can we combine external APIs with Portia?
Is that similar to the question before it, or did I misunderstand the question here?
I think there were quite similar questions. So, for example, there's this one. If a tool doesn't exist yet, how do I wrap a REST API into Portia MCP tool quickly?
How do I wrap a REST API into a Portia MCP tool quickly? You would have to create an MCP server implementation for it. So MCP is obviously a standard. So you'd have to like wrap the API calls into tools and expose them via MCP.
Yes, that's the next other question. Can we make MCP tools with Portia? I'm thinking of using RAG in the project.
You can't make MCP tools with Portia. You can use MCP tools in Portia. But if you have, I can't see the name of the person, just says Meet. Your name is not Meet, but if it is Meet, tell us more on Discord. What do you have in mind? RAG we use, you can see in our agent examples, we actually use RAG in one of the examples to create a Q&A based on our docs. So yep.
Are we expected to build a front-end UI, or is a strong back-end agent workflow enough for a good score? I mean, again, if you have a front-end UI, it's better chances to win. I mean, obviously, but if you have a really strong back-end, yeah, I mean, I would encourage polishing the front-end UI later. Work on the functionality first, because that is what it's really all about.
Yeah, I would say also, Amit, like I'm a usurper when it comes to software development. I graduated like 20 years ago, but like with Cursor, I'm able to get pretty far in general, just to like show something reasonable when I have to demo to non-technical people. The other thing you can try if you haven't yet is Streamlit. I find it phenomenal to like just do your plan run and then just surface the final thing with the steps, etc., in a nicely formatted output at the end from Streamlit. You're like, it actually looks pretty decent if you haven't tried it.
what is the observability option for? Observability?
Yeah, so the observability is for streams. What I could do is just to show you, because I mainly use, because the product is still new, most of my observability is in our staging repository and dashboard. What I was on was the production dashboard, but I could just sort of show you very briefly. Is it okay if I share my screen again, buddy?
All good, go for it.
Let me see. I've zoomed in as much as I can, so tell me if it's not big enough.
You have to share your screen.
Yeah, of course. Can you see that? Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay. Nice. So to answer your question, Anuj, you can create streams. A stream is basically when you create a stream, you provide it with a sampling rate. So you say, of all future streams, I want you to sample X%. I just took 100% here, and in my stream, pastrimi, because it's funny. And so then what happens after that is streams are getting automatically sampled. And when those streams are sampled, evaluators are taking those plan runs and they're calculating different metrics. There are two metrics that are provided by default. They're LLM as a judge metrics. One looks at whether the plan was successful or not. The other looks at efficiency. And then I added all sorts of like nonsense metrics when I was testing. One of them is called Judge Dread, and it gives a dread score of 1 always. It's like a custom one that I did, and the other just genuinely tests the tone of the plan run output. And you can actually drill into it if you wanted to, the individual plan runs that contributed to the score. You can see an explanation for, well, you can see the underlying run, of course, but you can also see an explanation for why anger management came up high. So here, for example, it'll say the agent's language is highly charged, yada, yada. And so therefore, this is why I gave it this particular score. And obviously, you can do that for the other evaluators. And so every time you create a stream, you can use the default evaluators and add a bunch of custom ones as well. The great thing about this is, in a real world, you might do a change to one of your system prompts, right? And all of a sudden, instead of your agent being cordial, it starts being very harsh to customers or whatever. And if it's something you care about, you would have had an evaluator that checks for that tone. In a similar way, you have LLMs tend to have a sort of a diarrhea of emojis all the time when they're writing stuff. And so you could explicitly tell it to not do high emoji and just literally do an evaluator that deterministically regexes and checks for emoji count as like another thing. So it really is like for live monitoring of your agent runs in production to make sure they don't veer away from desired behavior in real time. I hope that makes sense.
Yep. Cool. Thanks for sharing. What are the different models Portia have for the evals? I think that was answered.
For the evals? You can, I believe you can load whichever model you want for the evaluations. I will have to double check whether that's something that we already have or not. If you can put a pin on that, Kunal, I should know the answer. I just want to make sure I don't butcher it. So
please send Vinayak. Please send it on the Discord channel.
Yeah, please do.
In the technical questions category. I'm making an academic advisor using its API keys, but my project hits quota limit. What recommendation use case which explores its full capabilities? Again, this is a good question for Discord. But Munir, do you want to take that?
Which of the two? Because there's one from Pulast, and then there was another one after it.
Pulast, it's the same one.
Okay, so the question is, what production use cases? There were two questions he had, or no? What production use cases do you see more traction in enterprise automation, customer support, or dev tools? Great question. Honestly, because of the way we're positioned as an SDK, what we're finding is that, if I understand your question correctly, it's like, which production use cases are we being used for the most, us specifically? And in our case specifically, it's very often when somebody needs to bake agentic behavior into their product, and it's like A, customer facing, B, regulated. And so, for example, a company that does onboarding or KYC as a service is a great example. A great example of that. A company that does customer service ticketing as a software or a SaaS and wants to add agentic behavior to that. And again, in both cases, it's because you can't afford to get it wrong, and because it is sort of customer facing. I hope that answers
that was the new question. There was you checked the new one. There are some above as well. Yeah, someone is asking. This is the one on the screen. They have hit quota limits. So stuff like that, send it on Discord.
Yes, I also you may have missed this, Pulas. Sorry, buddy, but I shared my screen earlier to show folks where they can move to the pro tier, so that they are beyond the quota limits. And for the duration of the hackathon, we won't charge people for their plan runs. So the only thing you'll need is your billing details for sort of beyond that we can. Thank you, Shoban. Thank you very much. We love compliments. Keep them coming. Should I take? Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm just reading some questions. Do we have to build any agentic system to solve a problem using Portia SDK?
That's the. I don't know if I understand the. Do I understand the problem correctly, Kunal? I mean, it's kind of the objective of the hackathon is to try and unlock a use case using the Portia SDK. I will say, because I realized maybe I didn't address that as explicitly, and apologies, but try and pick something that people try and stay away from with agents normally. Something that, like, I don't know, that involves money movement. And if it's simpler, use PayPal, use something in crypto, Ethereum, or otherwise. Like, use something that people normally shy away from, because it's exactly with authentication, with execution hooks, with the plan, etc., the explicit planning, that we can really show how the SDK shines, right? I just want to call it. The other thing that I find compelling is when the actual example just is like really useful. So I mentioned that if you join our Discord server on our AI news channel, you'll see news snippets coming every day. Like, I have 2 babies at home and I'm trying to do the startup. So like, I'm like underslept and chronically exhausted. The way I get my AI news is I listen to this 10-minute podcast on the tube every day. That's literally how I do it. So it's extremely useful for me. We have a planning poker example in the example repo as well, which basically we actually use internally to pre-plan some of our tickets, like give us a t-shirt size estimate of the effort based on the ticket specs, because it just goes and it trawls our GitHub repository before doing that, and some of the design docs that we have. So it's like, these are things that are generally very good quality of life improvements. If you can build them with the SDK, more power to you.
Can we use AI coding assistants? Yes, I think that's okay.
Rishab, you'd be hard-pressed to find a nook or cranny where you can't use AI coding assistants. They're everywhere now.
Yeah, I think that's fine. This is my first hackathon. I should learn a lot and have a great time. I'll give my best. Yep, that was good.
Thank you. Thank you,
Good luck.
Join us on Discord and we'll do our best to respond to any questions you have. Thank you, Akash.
For the demo video, what's the ideal length? Try to keep it under 2 minutes. But I will share that in the announcement when we ask you to submit your projects. Yeah, you can use cursor. That's fine. Can we? Yeah, that's just fine. All the resources you can find on the website. There's the resources section. You can find it over there, and you can also ask questions in Discord. There are some really good example projects that you can take a look at. Okay.
Ariel, you can go. We shared that earlier. I think Kunal was just pointing to that. Now, you can go to, when you go on GitHub, you'll see, or in our docs, you'll see also a link to our agent examples repository. I think my co-founder, Emma, is also being super helpful and pinging some of those links to folks in the chat.
Docs were great for setup. What safeguards are built in for error recovery?
So we have two concepts. We have hard errors and soft errors. Soft errors is when the agent figures out that it can recover. I'll give you an example. If you remember, for those of you who were here early enough, I mentioned that I had to do a tool description override on the customer refund agent from Stripe. The way I spotted it is a plan run I did this morning when it tried to create a refund. I had a soft error because essentially the LLM deemed that it could recover from it. And so when it got the API error from Stripe saying you have to use this enum with the refund reason, it's then able to do the API call again and recover gracefully. Obviously, for this demo, I didn't want to take that bet, so I fixed it. You can also do tool hard errors, which you force yourself within your tool definitions. So you could do things like say, that if, I don't know, if the LLM returns profanity or something, raise a tool hard error. And that will cause the plan run to immediately cease with a failed state and provide an error with whatever detail you want, potentially the plan run context or the culprit that was identified.
Cool. I think that was it. We are, let me just see if there are any other. When should teams split into multi-agent versus keep one agent with multiple tools?
One agent, it depends on what your definition of a tool is. So here's how we think about it. And I apologize for not saying the name, but it didn't appear in the chat thing, in the screen. But so when you have a plan, you have multiple steps in that plan. Each step normally has a tool tied to it for the purposes of completing that step. So at every one of those steps, an execution agent is spun up to take the tool call, take the plan run context, take the tool, the plan run context, construct the tool call, and then summarize the output from it in a way that is salient to the step. So basically, if you're like, the answer is ideally you have something that has multiple tools in it as a plan run, and therefore multiple steps. But normally within a step in a plan run, you'd have one tool at a time.
Cool. Hey, Munir, any chance to land an internship at Portia?
I mean, show us what you can build, and then we can talk.
This happened with Kestra. Like they hired like 3 people from our event.
Really?
So it has, yeah. They're working at Kestra now. So it's quite kind of cool. Same thing happened with what was this other company, Armo. They do security, Kubescape, open source project in the CNCF landscape. So yeah, it has happened before. If you make something really cool, people want to hire the like really good people. So even after the hackathon, you can start contributing to the open source projects and stuff. Will we have more talks like this before starting the hackathon? It starts in like 2 days, so you have 2 days to play around with it. But if you have any questions, there's a voice chat in the Discord channel, so we can always come over there as well.
Yep. There's also, just if you sort of have not had enough of my charismatic presence, you can go to our YouTube channel where there's like some good walkthroughs of all of the basics, and there's actually a walkthrough of this example. It's a bit out of date, but still, to get the sort of core concepts across. And there's a few really good examples from my co-founder Emma that you could check out.
Cool. I think that was it. And people asking now repeated questions. So make sure you check the live stream again. It's being recorded. And any questions you have, just send it in the Discord channel. Make sure you join the Discord channel, share with your friends. And by the way, actually, share it on socials if you have signed up. So maybe you can share, just registered for the hackathon and use the hashtag AgentHack 2025. And yeah, make sure your friends join as well. So good luck, and we will see you in Discord.
Nice. Bye. It's part of the swag raffle, right? That they have to post. Okay.
Yep.
Nice. I'm thinking through some pretty cool swag ideas. So yeah, make sure you share this around. You don't want to miss out.
Cool. All right. See you, folks.
All right.
Bye.
Shukriya.